issue, and it was my Mac. But
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
you excited?
Oh, yes. 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 Okay. Looks like we are live. What's up, everybody? It's not Friday, but this is another episode of Web Dev Power Hour, or what was the name again? And
Yeah, you got it.
I
You got it.
already
It's been
forgot.
a while. I know. It's insane.
Web Dev Power, yeah. Or something. No, whatever. Live stream. Yeah, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Paul Bratlovsky. I'm not gonna do a spoiler alert. I'm not going to add his current position because he's gonna have to tell us about that. But in general, in the next ones, I will.
If they could guess, I wonder if they could guess. I'm
I,
not gonna say anything until they guess.
it took me 15 minutes. When I was setting up the Twitter. I was thinking, should I ask a question or whatever? To users, can they guess which company are you employed?
Yeah, unfortunately, if they go to my Twitter, they might see it. So I'm glad you did it.
Yeah, it's awesome to see everybody here, all
Oh, the
the
questions are
familiar
starting.
faces. And as you can hear, now we have both
Amazing
awesome
audio.
microphones. Yes, so yeah, and I was just thinking we can just start by just basically catching up. And since Paul has some exciting news to share, we can maybe start with him, and then I'm gonna do my boring family style update.
Paul has a Fang status now. No, not Fang. More like
Almost.
almost. No. I saw the craziest thing. So actually, let's hold up a few minutes. I want to see if someone could guess what it is. Oh, Alex, you ruined it for everybody. I see it. Alex, you can't. I was going to say everybody except Alex.
Yeah.
Everybody except Alex. Yeah. So I work for Strappy now, which was my dream company. Which is
Okay,
phenomenal.
let's do the applause.
Yes, how I got the job there. It's pretty exciting. I love it. It's everything I thought it was going to be. And so very feel lucky and can't thank, John's podcast was the one thing that just started the whole process. It was amazing. So it's really cool, really cool.
What's your
And
official position so I can
I'm
start next time?
Yeah. I'm a developer advocate at Strappy,
Developer
which
advocate.
could mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And the reason why it means a lot of things to a lot of different people, because every company does a little bit different. But if I had to explain like what I think developer advocate is, and I forgot the gentleman's name. I'll look it up. I'll share with you. But there's a guy who talked about what a developer advocate does. And the way he explained it, I'm not there yet, but this is like something I used to strive towards, to be like, this is what I want to do. And he said a developer advocate is accomplished developer who's like really good and understand the technical aspects of it, not just on like a superficial level, and also someone who's able to, speak, enjoys being part of the community, reaching out to people, doing stuff like that, and then combining those two things together. And you kind of refer to as the unicorn, but it's very hard to find people that do both well. And I wouldn't even say I'm the best at both of those yet, but that's what I'm striving for, being like really good at development and then being really good at, public speaking, getting out there to community, building community. But it's definitely a tough role. And even though I love my job, like once in a while, I'm like, man, it was so much easier being a developer, but I will not change anything. I love my job. I will do it for as long as they let me,
Yeah, so if one of your complaints previously about this podcast that we talked too much about Strappy, I guess you'll have to switch to another one, because if you thought it was a lot before, now we're dialing up to 120.
Listen,
that's
just like someone says, I love pizza, like I love Strappy. It's not anything to do with you all. There's some joy, and it's kind of funny because let's not talk about Strappy for too long, but let's talk about Strappy. So the story is, though, here's like the cool part is I fell in love with the project, and I got introduced to it actually doing one of your courses. You actually had Strappy as backend, and then I used it for a lot of like my own personal projects. And then I realized it's like, why recreate the wheel if you could just use a CMS, and it happens in my case, I love Strapi, and build projects. So I'm able to get stuff out the door much faster. With that being said, though, like anybody who's learn to code, like you still should eventually learn Node or some sort of backend language. And I still would say Strapi is a good place for you because it's open source and it's based on Node. And once you get familiar with backend, and I think you shared something similar to me, John, where you could kind of look at the back, see how they organize their controller, their services, and you could get an idea of what a backend should look like. And so it's a good way to kind of easily transition yourself to a backend developer because Strapi gives you a lot of stuff out of the box, but it's also fully customizable to be able to do whatever your heart desires. Like you could literally write backend code all day long if you wanted to.
No, for me, it was definitely, I also can definitely say that because of Strapi, uh, prior to Strapi, I didn't know much about REST. Pretty much I was just building like get request and then make it. And then the first application I built with Strapi, I pretty much learned how to interact with the server as far as, rest of the HTTP verbs, like, put, post, and whatever. And also authentication, just to understand like that you get the JSON and then the token and how to basically put it. That for me was kind of, it just clicked for me. I think I was using the Firebase before, and it was kind of all like foggy. And then
Yeah.
once you have actually server on the back where you can like test it, that was definitely a case where it made much more easier. Plus, once you switch to the Node, once you start learning Node, it's gonna be much quicker, much faster. So
Yes.
that's something that I think I already mentioned when we did the podcast with your boss, with your current boss now. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Daniel is
that
awesome.
that
Daniel is awesome.
and also Paul
So
went
chill.
to Lisbon, which is not, he's not telling too many things about it, but yeah, maybe you can get
Oh
him
my God.
talking.
Yeah. Yeah. We went to Paris. And it was phenomenal because I've never been to Paris before. And then I went to Lisbon, Portugal, fell in love instantly. And the coolest thing about Portugal, like you'll look over the river that they have, and you're like, oh, that looks like a Golden Gate Bridge because it looks identical to what you see in San Francisco. And then, when you talk to people, because a while back they had a pretty significant earthquake that destroyed whatever bridge there was previously. So the reason why it looks like a San Francisco bridge, because that's the type of construction that's made specifically to be able to withstand an earthquake. So it was like kind of cool. And the weather was nice. They have these little pastries. I forgot what they're called. I could Google right now, but oh my God, they were so good and totally worth the trip just for the
just
pastries. Yeah. Yeah. You just go have a pastry or two. But it was funny. I did get in trouble in Lisbon. You probably heard this story already from the live stream that I did. But the table, there's like 70 people from Strapi, like the CEOs there, everybody important there, and they're like, "Yeah, Strapi Power Hours back." I love it. And so the funny part is like they were talking about the show Friends, like Friends, that show that everybody loves. I
Yeah,
never
as,
liked
as
that
as a
show.
side note, everyone in Europe thinks that United States is like Friends, and me included. Before I came to US, I was watching a bunch of Friends episodes, and you think that
They
this
think
is the
that's exactly what it
reality,
is.
and then
That's
you
so
understand that
funny.
it's not.
and and so they were talking about like Friends, and I kind of came late into the conversation, not realizing they already stopped talking about the show. And I go like, I hate Friends. And then this one girl just looks at me like, then what the hell are you doing here? Like she literally said that to me. And I'm like, kind of like, no, I hate like Friends. And she's like, what's wrong with France? I'm like, nothing's wrong with France. And then I realized she thought I kept saying, I hate France, I hate France. And by the time I was able to fix myself, like the whole table, basically, Paul hates France. And I'm like working for a French company. I'm in,
Yeah, that's
I'm there. And so now I'm like, no. Like I have to be like, no, I love Paris. I love France. But I hate that show with like whatever that dude's name, like, I don't know the characters there. It's so like, but that was hilarious. And so literally the whole trip, so you hate France.
yeah, that's probably the last thing that you want to say about anything bad about France or French people, especially
Yeah,
considering
yeah.
that you work for a French company. That
But it
they
was cool.
might
It was
they
cool.
might kind of what's the proper name again? I keep forgetting the English the moment I turn it on. Anyway, so as far as my updates, yeah, we basically stopped because of the war. Quick update, everything is as far as my wife's family, I mean, it's still going on. It's more or less okay, I guess you can say, but her brother was called into army, so that's kind of a little bit stressful for now. And thank you to everyone who, like, messaged and offered like all kinds of things and support and help and whatever. I mean, I'm just like, mm, just extremely grateful, and I can never repay, and everything that you guys offered. Like, I mean, there was a person who didn't know me, who was offering like an apartment in Bulgaria and like
Wow.
like stuff like that for her family. So everything's fine. Some of her family went to Poland, but they pretty quickly returned, so everything's fine because where she lives, it's not as bad. I mean, it's a horrible situation, but for now, everything's better. And to kind of give you update, like month in, we were thinking about picking up the podcast, but then kind of you'll see why we didn't. So my family came over because we were expecting the second baby, and then so that kind of I was busy with that. Then we had a second baby, so I have two daughters now. So that was really cool. Then I had two surgeries. Like the second one was for voice, so I couldn't literally like talk for a month, because it's just a recovery. It's nothing major in a sense. Like it's pretty typical. They say like you cannot like normally talk for 4 weeks, but I would even say more. And so that should supposed to be a permanent one. So I was just waiting for to voice to kind of come back and blah blah blah. So then instead of recording, because you literally can for 1 month talk like this. This should be again, yeah, permanent. I was doing the injections before. Uh, and then yeah, and then pretty much now this is permanent, so everything should work. And like kind of the last update, well, last two actually. So in a month we are moving to Florida. So
Almost
pop,
moved to Texas.
yeah,
Goodness,
almost, yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
Almost moved to
We're
Texas. Where did I fail? Where did I fail?
I was texting Paul. I was like, "Yeah, because we had basically two options. We were between Texas and Florida, and we are literally going back and forth. We even like almost got the apartment in Texas, and I'm about to text Paul, but since we're changing our minds so quickly, I was like, I better not, because I'll text him in a second, and that's gonna be something else. And sure enough, yeah, then we switched to Florida, just to kind of like, as far as why, because me and my wife, we cannot sit still pretty much. So we have been 5 years in California. It's awesome place. We have, prior to kids, we were able to kind of explore it a lot, and it's just we feel like it's time. We just want to see something else. We want to have some changes, see some, something different. And probably one of the biggest ones, I'm not gonna lie, it was the chance of warmer ocean, because that's one misconception about California. The ocean is pretty cold. It's
Never
uh
swam in that ocean.
yeah,
Forget it.
you it's very
Like,
nice weather, but like
yeah.
you go to the beach,
Touch
but
the
you
water.
literally
Forget it.
sit right next to it. So not to say that I'm gonna be all day long every day in the beach in Florida. Of course, that's not how it works. But that was one of the like main ones on the list. And lastly, just a quick update about the podcast for now. So what we decided, that it's more gonna be like a Q&A thing. So we'll just come here. We're not gonna prepare any themes. If you have some questions, then we'll just answer them. And then I also have here and there during the week, I get some questions basically on Udemy that are not code specific. They're like, "Hey, I'm doing this and this, and I feel stuck and whatever." So I'm just gonna answer those questions here as well. So that way, it saves me a little bit of typing. And then once we move, there's gonna be some time off again. That's why I said we're kind of back. So we'll be next 4 weeks. We'll be on, and then we'll be a little bit off, because it like we literally need to drive from California to
God.
Florida, because we need to move the car anyway, and that's gonna be uh kind of 4 days or whatever. Not for what I'm talking about, half a month pretty much, because we'll drive like 4 hours a day. So long story short, by the time I settle in Florida, so there's gonna be a little bit time in between. And then once we settle in Florida, then it's gonna be Friday nights again. We're just gonna do it at, let's say, 8 o'clock Eastern, most likely, and then for Paul it's gonna be 6 o'clock. Uh, in
Perfect.
I mean, as
In
long as
Texas.
he, I
Listen,
mean,
doesn't
if he
matter because
doesn't
it
have,
doesn't matter what time it is. It's still 100 degrees. You go outside at 11 p.m. It's still like 100 degrees, which I love it. I love it. Everybody likes to burn. It's good. Uh, but
well, I mean, it's always you kind of have to look at it, I guess. After you live in some, what it's like in
yeah,
Connecticut and freezing cold and everything.
yeah. You had a
Uh,
little shout out quickly. I want to say from Borislav Adamovic. He said,
yes, thank you.
John, I just wanted to thank you because of your course. I got a front end job in my capital. Can't wait to start in 4 days, which is awesome. Congratulations. And
Yes,
uh,
thank you very much for like
yeah, that's awesome.
if you found the content useful. I mean that's just amazing.
Listen,
Uh,
I keep saying, I told this story. You probably forgot already, but the day before like the interview I had, I just completed John's React course, and not only John's React course, I also did your styled components course, which I was like, whatever, I'll just learn styled components, whatever it does. And I fell in love with styled components. Now I'm like really into Tailwind, even though I still like styled components, but Tailwind's just fine. But I go in and they're like talking about it, and like they asked, React? I'm like, yes. And I was able to literally, everything was fresh in my mind, talk about everything I learned in your course, to chat about it. And then they're like, but we also use style components. It's like, God, yeah, me too. I know style components also because I took the course. And it's kind of great feeling when you learn something and you're able to apply it and then you get hired. It's fantastic. So changed a lot of people's lives, John.
yes, so have you with your live streams. Yeah, if you haven't listened to Paul's live streams lately today, like be sure to check it out. Check him out on Coding After 30, I believe. Yeah, it's still the name
Yeah,
of the channel.
yeah. Okay, yeah. All right, that's good, John. That's good. That's a
Why
good channel
is
name.
what,
I turned 42 like this year, and so I'm like, oh god, no. Why is my and people like you got to rename your channel Coding After 40? And I'm like, hell no, no. It's for people who were in my shoes when I was in my late like mid 30s, looking to whatever get a job. That's my demographic. I'm not. I'll be 50. I'll still be coding after 30. You know, I'll just get like a lot of Botox, whatever it is.
Okay, I think you'll be fine. I think you'll be fine. Yeah. So that's kind of the quick update. Pretty much, we're 17 minutes in. That's that. I think that should cover the bases. I mean, of course, don't worry. We are such a narcissist that we'll talk about ourselves all this
Yeah, I
time.
was gonna troll you before anybody had a chance yet. When's the Next.js course coming out?
Uh, well, about that. No, I mean, I everything is prepared, but I don't think I'm gonna record anything before I leave California. Simply because I kind of want to
Too
focus,
much,
like
yeah.
pretty much, like once I'm done, then once I because I'm not gonna finish it, and then I don't want to do half the course here, half the course there, because I don't know, maybe there's like echo or something, and then I need to work on it. So I don't want it to be too much different.
Sharon
So
is hilarious. She's like coding way after 30. Yeah, Sharon's awesome. So literally like a year ago or 6 months ago, I showed my website, paulbrasovsky.com, which is like my resume site. And then I just never went ahead and at the bottom changed lorem ipsum to be something normal. And so she always calls me out. It's like, Paul, you still have lorem ipsum on your website. I was like, yeah, what it is. A little lazy, I guess, but it's
Lorem
funny.
ipsum is an awesome thing. I'm sometimes considering. I think one of the applications I was too lazy to come up with a text. I just left lorem ipsum, and I was like,
It'll be
it would
hilarious,
like.
like to do a resume in lorem ipsum.
By the way, about your website, I stole some of the stuff. I was redoing one of my portfolios one, and then I copied your skills about the JavaScript and everything. So you'll probably have bunch of soon. You'll have bunch of people who have the same skill section as you. Hope you
Nice,
don't
nice.
mind that.
No, no,
Yeah.
I don't mind. I got that website from Bootstrap made, so it's templates.
No,
I
it's
didn't
it's
do it
it's
from
very
scratch. Yeah,
good.
it's good. It's
So
good.
Brian is here. Hey Brian, thanks for all the support and everything. You
Yeah.
went to meet up with him, right?
Yeah, we
When you
were
were
when I was
back.
in Connecticut. Yeah,
Was it
I
React
hung
meetup?
out with them. It was they did React. I think it was just in general JavaScript, but it was great. Everybody was like super friendly. We had a lot of fun. And yeah, Brian's a cool dude. We had coffee a bunch of times too. Now I got to get him down to come to Texas to visit. Uh, but yeah,
So yeah, now Paul is hitting all the meetups in Texas because
That's the plan.
he
That's the
wants
plan.
to like kind of blend in, and
Oh,
then he's just gonna
yeah.
be full on strappy mode. So
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
first he wants
exactly.
to.
I'm like sneaking in. I'm like, yeah, what are they doing here? Uh-huh. Okay, how could I do this?
Is it
But it's I
are
was
there a
gonna
bunch of people like in the
I
remix one?
it's pretty good. Yeah, they have like usually meetups when you go, depending on what they are, they're actually pretty cool because they're very like family like because they're not huge and you like able to just chat with people after I give a talk, ask questions. The one that I went with Brian was pretty awesome because everybody was just sitting working on the projects that they were working on. So it's a lot of fun. One thing I realized is that some of these meetups they're hosted by companies that uh, host the space or host the event, and a lot of times they actually use that time to look for talent. So the one that I went with last time, they're like, oh, if anybody's looking for a job, like leave your contact with us. I thought that's kind of cool. To Doesn't guarantee that you're going to get a job, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of cool that you're starting to network and kind of step outside where you're meeting people face to face. And I've been when I started okay when I started working at Strappy, I just have to say it that way because that's happened. So a lot of it, like working remote first, there's a lot of writing that happens. And then a lot of videos, like on my channel, when I do a video, it's like, hey, what's up? I'm here, just like we're doing this podcast. There's zero planning outside of me going for a walk and thinking about what I'm going to talk. But at Strappy, like you got to be a little bit more prepared. You have to create like a script, you have to create your notes and all this other stuff. And so, what I've been doing a lot is writing more. And I realized that a lot of the notes that I'm taking, I'm actually taking in Markdown because it's so much easier than transform it to a blog. So I actually was just going to say that I started to write more to kind of share, like, and publish on dev.to or like on the Strappy website or my own personal blog post and sharing like what I'm learning on Twitter, because that's another great way to uh, build engagement with things that you're doing. So I'll give you an example. I went to this remix meetup. I just really I was like, wow, this looks really cool. Like I want to try it. And so I put out a tweet and shared like, hey, I just went to a remix meetup. It was like a lot of fun. And I'm thinking of building a project. And it was cool because it started a conversation between the organizers, even that guy, CK, my God, now his name is the, leaving my mind. I can't see dots. Yeah, the guy, the React guy who also does the remix stuff, he even like engaged with my Twitter post. And so now like what's happening is like I talked about their thing. I'm talking about like what I'm building. They even asked me if I would love to come in and talk at their meetup. So it's like a way that I went from not knowing those people to creating a basically relationship with them that I could grow and nurture, which I'm sure is a good way to get involved in the community to find opportunity and open doors. And so that's like, I know I'm taking like forever to get to the point, but the point is the more you get involved publicly with your coding, with other communities and sharing what you're learning and tagging like, if I do something like remix based, I'll tag remix, like whatever, and put it publicly out there, is going to introduce you to people that could eventually lead to opportunities of getting hired. That was like the longest winded way to say getting out there will get you hired. Wow.
Yeah,
You're
but
welcome.
speaking of meetups, don't be surprised if, at least in my experience, I don't want to be negative, but I didn't find LA to be a good coding kind of. I'm not talking about the entire scene, but as far as meetups, they were pretty bad. They were like the ones that I only found was part of the coding bootcamp. So what happens is you're like for 1 hour you need to listen about their amazing program, which you're not gonna
Yeah,
attend
that's
anyway,
bad.
and
Yeah.
then they show you like how to pass props down one level. So
Yeah. So that I agree. Like there are a lot of actual companies, Jamstack by Netlify meetup, Reese has meetups, React has meetups. Like go to the big ones. Like I feel like they'll be good, but I could see how boot camps, they're really good at sales and they just want to get you in the door, and so but yeah, definitely show up, try it out. If you don't like it, don't go back again. But I had a
yeah, for
blast.
me
I
it
had a
was just
good
like
time. I had a
when I
good
was
time.
attended a few of them in Chicago, and they were way better than I was expecting LA to be like. Because as far as company, I
Yeah,
mean, this is, I
it's the
mean, not.
California folks.
So I mean, I'm not comparing this to San Francisco, but like LA has like a lot of places to work. So that's why I was very surprised that
Yeah.
the coding meetups were not particularly great. Let's get
Yeah.
to. I have few favorites that I wanna. I already forgot. Can I share them here? Uh, like this. Oh yeah, so I can do it like this. How long have you been coding, John? Like at least 6, 7 years, I want to say. But again, the beginning wasn't like I was kind of doing it more or less part time. So it wasn't like this year I started, but kind of introduced to the web dev. I would say 2016, seven, yeah, 16, something like that. I would say I first introduction and then slowly, and then more and more and more and more. It took me a while, but yeah. What about you, Paul?
I seriously started like I always coded on and off, but I did it the wrong way. I tried to learn everything too much. But I think when I turned 36, maybe like 36 and a half, I started to really dive into it because I figured if I'm going to get a job, I need to get good at one language. And so I started to focus on JavaScript. That's how I got led to React. So literally from, I guess also about 6 years, but the first three, like from 36 to 39, I probably wasn't as intense as I should have been.
Then we have from Storm Surge, and this is actually a different comment. I was actually found the wrong one, but he was just saying I would make his day if I would do a shout out. So I'm doing a shout out for Storm
Nice,
Surge. So
nice.
you don't need to donate anything. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's 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 cool. We're cool. We're cool.
Yeah, we don't, we definitely don't do the podcast for super chats. That's for sure. It's
Yeah. Well,
you
if we
know,
would, we would be broke.
well,
Uh,
yeah, it's for sure. It's so yeah. Don't worry about it.
then I have this one where we're being called out a little bit by Northern Chimp, and yes, I'm probably gonna be basically butchering the names there. I would like to interject a moment to say you're both bad at names. Before Paul's enrollment here, he kept lauding John Smigla. Yeah, about that.
Yeah,
There's another story. He
it's
and I couldn't find him on
uh,
the internet. He did it
I
again today. Yeah.
yeah, today because it's been I said Smilga. I did.
Yeah, no. He did
So
something similar on our first video. He made the
no,
whole thing.
that's what I was gonna say. So this is the funniest thing. I made the whole thing. I sent it to like John to get a review, and John's so polite about it. He's like, "Yeah, it's Smilga." I'm like, and so the video was like it was funny because I wasn't gonna re-record the whole thing, so I just like inserted it
Yeah,
in. So I was like,
yeah,
"And today we're going to meet John Smilga." And then
yeah,
like it goes
yeah.
normal. It's like this like out of place thing, but it was funny. But yeah,
Well,
listen,
I mean,
yeah, it
it's
is what it
fine.
is.
It's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah.
When I type my own last name, I pretty much that's always how I messed up those letters. So it's always comes out that way. Can you do a course on React Native for doing mobile app? That would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. But again, this year was I kind of tried to put all of the major events in one place. So once I knew that that my daughter Emma is arriving, I kind of scheduled like the surgeries, the moving, everything. I kind of wanted to get it done in this whole
Out of the
like
way, yeah.
thing, and then it's gonna go back to normal. Yeah, this year has been kind of major in the sense that I did update a bunch of things, and most likely I'm gonna update still a little bit more while I'm here. But in general, the new content, yeah, that's I'll I'll start in October. So right after that,
Nice.
React Native is definitely on the list as far as that. There's Next.js, TypeScript, and React Native is kind of three things that I'm really like because I like Tailwind, but as far as course, I'm not sure. Um, yeah, how much do you work with Tailwind now?
I mean, I use it for everything now. I went
Yep,
from Bootstrap straight to Tailwind, and
I
I
could
think
see that.
like um I think that the documentation is good, and there's a lot of resources to learn Tailwind. That is it worth making a course? Like I don't know. But Next.js 100%, TypeScript 100%. So I want to add my 2 cents on TypeScript. Like companies are now getting to a point where you need to know TypeScript. Even like at Strappy, literally last week we released TypeScript support. So when you uh, initiate like Strappy, you have an option now, either use JavaScript or TypeScript. And you know, any, like, there's so many other projects that now are all like TypeScript out of the box. So you definitely have to be familiar with that for sure.
Yeah, I'll add my 2 cents once because we have actually one question similar to this about the TypeScript. So you probably Paul is gonna have to repeat what he just said, but I'm gonna add my 2 cents there. But yeah, we have a question about TypeScript, and that's definitely the case where I mean that is on the list and everything. So then I have from Simon, I believe. Great to see you guys back together. Yeah, we had a major argument. I'm kidding.
I know we had a fist fight.
Yeah, we had such a
Yeah. That's why
we
I didn't stream for a while. Like
we
my face
swear that
wasn't
we're
right.
not gonna talk to each
Yeah.
other again ever.
Yeah.
Congrats, John. Welcome to Florida. Yeah, we're excited to go to Sunshine State and already found the jiu-jitsu right next to the house. Already found the gym and everything. So really looking forward to it. And yeah, we can catch up and grab a coffee once we go there. Really looking forward to that.
Yeah. I'll go there, visit you, you know.
You said that about California and you never came.
I never made it. Listen, to my excuse, like, so you should be mad at me, and my friend should be mad at me because I didn't go to his wedding either. So
yeah, my wife was like, because I told her that
like,
you're
Paul
coming.
is a liar.
I told my wife that you're coming, and she's like, at some point, out of the blue, she's like, "Is Paul coming?" And I'm like, "No, I think it's already July," and he said June.
So I had life changes also. I'm gonna play that card, and so I was dealing with stuff also. So I decided not to talk to anybody, just stay home and like whatever, you know. But I'm better now. It's fine.
Change the number, and then we're wonder why no one calls you.
Oh, this is a funny thing. So I changed my number. I didn't tell anybody. When I say anybody, I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell my sister. I didn't even tell my daughter. And then my birthday comes around, and I'm like, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but I'm like, nobody's calling me on my birthday. That is the weirdest thing. And then finally, like, somebody's like I see my sister in person. She's like, I tried texting you and your phone doesn't work. I'm like, oh, about that. Yeah, I changed my number. And so I missed happy birthdays because of my own fault. It is what it is. It's funny.
Let's do quickly the questions that I have from not just Udemy, it's from Twitter, whatever, and then we'll go back to basically to the chat. So yeah, we can
let's do it.
We're not gonna leave you hanging. Listen, question. I can definitely interesting. No, I'm thinking what's the I already forgot how I can share the screen over here. Let me see. So I have jobs API. I have this one. I mean, from one part I can read the question, I guess, and anyway. So I'll just leave it. Please tell me how to get past the fear of feeling like it's too much. So this is from Twitter, and then because it was asked to two people, and the person is like, feeling what is too much. The languages. I started web development 5 weeks ago, backend, and the truth be told, it scares me. I can't seem to get past JavaScript. It really scares me. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but like this feeling is never gonna go away. I mean, I'm still pretty much every day you learn something new, and this just that's one of the biggest things is to kind of learn how to live with it, with the fact that you are not gonna know everything. There's always gonna be somebody smarter than you. That's just the reality, and it's pretty much about your path and just chugging along. That's kind of my short answer. What do you think?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's one of the biggest, like, the services I don't like about YouTube. There's plenty of people out there who make it seem how easy it is and how anybody could do it in a very short period of time for whatever reason that they have. Maybe they're selling something, like what have you. But the reality is learning to code is difficult and it takes a long time. And so what I tell people, just have that as an expectation. It's something new. You've never done it before. It took me literally a year and a half just to make sense of JavaScript. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it might take somebody that long. It might take somebody longer, but it does take work and it is like hard. And as long as you have that as an expectation, then at least you don't have to beat yourself up when it's hard. I mean, when I was first starting JavaScript, I had a mentor helping me out, and everything he said to me, I had no idea what he was talking. And whenever he would be like, ask me a question, I would give him an answer, and he'd be like, "That's not it. That's not it." And so it just takes time, and with practice, building, projects, small ones, And I like your idea, John, how you talk about like doing like little throwaway projects where you just practice one thing and you do it over and over, and enough times, and then it'll start to finally make sense. But it is about repetition,
No,
and not
let's.
trying to move too quick.
I saw somewhere. It was. Have you ever seen the YouTube channel Buff Dudes?
Yeah, a while ago. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
No,
used to
they're
watch it.
actually for fitness
They're
channel.
funny.
They're
They're
very
funny. They're
they
funny. They're
first
funny.
what I like is they're original.
Yeah,
So they're unique stuff. Again, love them, hate them, whatever, but they're original. And anyway, in there they kind of they there was like a video about them picking up the running or whatever, and he just talked about this kind of like a circle of your comfort zone. So imagine in the beginning you have one circle, right? That's your comfort zone, and then as you're like learning and expanding, that comfort zone slowly grows, but still every time, let's say you need to build something that you haven't done, you again need to step out of it. And again, it's the same thing. You're like, oh, like how I should have known this. I already
yeah,
code for 6 years. Like I'm so stupid. Like you go again through those phases. Again,
yeah.
whatever, fail, and then you slowly grow, and then you're like, okay, now I know this one. And this just constantly you're doing that. So 5 weeks in JavaScript, you're again, don't believe the videos that tell you that you'll learn JavaScript in 3 weeks. It's not like, again, it's just a never
I'm still
ending,
learning
like,
JavaScript.
yeah, it's
It's
I'll
never
always
ending.
say
Right
that's
now.
one of the things. Like, I guess you know how they say there's two things that you cannot escape. It's the death and taxes. We can add JavaScript. You can also
Yeah, JavaScript
you
for
cannot
sure.
you
It's
cannot escape it, and it's you'll always be learning it. That's just the reality.
yeah,
It's
yep.
I kind of, again, the
And
sooner you'll embrace it, the better.
yes, yes, it's the struggle is real. And but it's normal. And so like what you're feeling, not getting it, everybody goes through that. The secret is to just keep doing a little bit every day to keep moving forward. Because I'm not saying this, go check out my YouTube channel, but if you go to my YouTube channel, Coding After 30, you don't,
Yes,
but
go
if
to
just
that
go to the
channel.
very first video on that channel I made, because I was just starting on my journey of trying to get hired. I didn't have a job yet. And over time, like you could see my growth going from where I started not knowing anything to like knowing a little bit now. And it just takes time. But what is important is the consistency of just doing it every day, regardless how you feel about it. And regardless, like if you're like, oh, this is like frustrating because I can't figure this out, just take a rest, come back to the next day and go for it. It's the only way. And the biggest thing that I tell people with choosing to do programming, you're literally choosing to be a life learner for the rest of your life. There's no other way. So, like, I know John's constantly learning stuff. I'm constantly trying to learn things, because if you don't, you're not going to last in this career because it's constantly changing and evolving.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to my wife, that it's kind of, you cannot just simply like walk away. Like you can, but let's imagine you don't code for 2 years, right? By that time, let's say TypeScript is already evolved to the point
Yeah,
where
something
there's
else.
maybe there's a framework on top of the TypeScript already. Let's imagine that, right, or whatever. And then so you need to start everything from scratch. It's constantly like kind of, and again, this is it's from one part I'm really excited about it, because that's what I didn't like about my previous job, because there was no such growth. And then in here, yeah, but it sometimes can be overwhelming. That's the uh like the other side of it. Then I have an,
Well, to
yeah,
hold
go
on, let
ahead.
me just add last 2 cents before we move on. And like one thing that I want to say, because of that though, it gives everybody almost like equal level of opportunity to enter when something new comes out. Like for instance, when TypeScript comes out, like if you started learning TypeScript when it first came out, or when it started getting popular, like you will have the same amount of experience as somebody else who started learning that. Like take a look at the Remix that only been around for a year. There's no like 10-year-old like veterans in Remix. It's a new technology. So if you kind of find a thing that's popular and you start learning it, like you have the same like kind of level of experience of footing that you could get. And so if you continue to keep learning, you're always going to be relevant. And this is the thing that I like about this field. As long as I am willing to learn, I'm always going to be relevant at my job. And to me, that kind of makes me feel like this has like the best job security, because it's up to you to continuously improve to stay relevant.
Yep, that's 100% correct. Then I have about basically about there's a question about as far as how to study a course or whatever. So I'm gonna try to like shrink it down the question, but essentially the idea is that somebody is going through the course. They are about 2 weeks in. They're, let's say, done with 3/4 of the course, but it's hard to kind of do it on your own. So you need to go back and basically rewatch the basic stuff, because coding along is one thing, but then doing it on your own is another one. And then the question is more or less, is it normal for most people, and should I continue basically with a course and then come back, then try and learn everything kind of later? So I definitely say it's normal. It's 100% normal. And kind of the way I do it, more or less, like any kind of course, any kind of topic, it depends. Sometimes I go through stuff and I realize that, okay, I don't, I have forgotten. Like, it's normal that you'll forget things. It's one thing if you're just like going through the content together with a instructor, and it's totally different when you have to start doing it on your own. So there's two options. You can either start doing by chunks. So every time you learn a little bit of new info, you practice it on your own. Or the second time, you essentially go through the whole course. It is what it is. And then once you're done, you just sit down and you're like, okay, I want to build such and such and such and such. And then as you're doing that thing, building that thing, whatever that case may be, that's when you go back and you're like, okay, how to do this, how to do that. Is it extremely frustrating? Yes. But with every time, you will basically learn something. Kind of, you'll have a better understanding in your head. So every time you get stuck, understand, like, this is the biggest thing that I think that kind of for people is misleading. Every time you're stuck, you're actually making progress, because you will remember that problem and how to solve it later. So that's kind of my short answer.
Yeah, like
what is your approach?
The most important part is making sure that whatever course, whatever resource you use, after you're done with it, try building something yourself based on what you learned on your own. And whenever you get stuck, what I would add to it, don't just jump back to look at the course again to find the answer. Try it first in your code editor, try a bunch of different things, even if they all blow up and don't work. And then if it's still stuck, go on the web and find documentation about the thing that you're trying to do and read it. Believe it or not, as you become more of a intermediate developer, you're actually going to be using a lot of written resources rather than videos most of the time. And it's a good practice. And at your job, it's perfectly normal to look stuff up, read articles, because sometimes you don't even know, because you've never done before, how it works. And so go try to figure out by reading and then trying again. So try to get away from this idea after you complete a course to use that course as the resource all the time. And of course, if you really, really get stuck, go back to the course. So what I did to force myself, because I was stuck in the tutorial hell, where I would just do a course, complete it, move on to another course, complete it, and move to another course. I have over 500 like Udemy courses. It's not even, I'm not exaggerating. So much money I spent. And then they introduced that monthly price. I was like, God damn it. But the point is that I started doing live streaming where I code live to force myself to work on my own project outside of a tutorial. And that's where like majority of the learning happens, because you go through trial and error, and the mistakes you make in your own code, you will remember once you find a solution. So I tell people, as soon as you can, start trying to build something yourself, even if it breaks. And when I first started doing it, literally for a first month, I couldn't build anything. I didn't even know where to start, but that was the process I had to go through. And that's what everybody has to go through. And now, like, I don't care, like failure to me now just means that I'm going to learn something, And so I'm not afraid to start something new. I started like learning Remix recently, and I'm using the documentation. And my first stream, like, I failed miserably, but then I remembered all the mistakes I made, and then the second stream was a little bit easier, and that's the process.
Yeah, there's definitely one channel that I want to share that kind of goes through, and actually it's done by Natasha, and I want to invite her at some point on this podcast as well, because I think she kind of nailed it It was similar to kind of Alex, where she basically figure out the path that she's going to take, how she's going to build the projects, how she's going to work on it, and she has a whole playlist. So, well, once I answer the questions or whatever, I'm gonna go and look for the YouTube channel to share. So I have one TypeScript one. This is pretty like it's an easy one. I've been learning front end for 8 months. Actually, do I need to learn TypeScript? Will I need it when I get the job? At this point, yes, I would say that. I mean, again, some people kind of might complain about it, might disagree and whatever, but TypeScript seems to be the thing that's here to stay. And then, just like Paul was saying, I mean, it comes down to the fact that when I was learning Redux Toolkit, for example, you go through docs, you already have two versions. Either you're like normally learning or you're already using TypeScript. And trust me, soon there's going to be only one version. That's going to be the
Yeah, it's gonna
TypeScript
be.
one. So if you don't know, then yeah.
Yeah. Still like TypeScript, say whatever. Love the West view. You can do what you want. It's great. But on Teams, it just makes more sense to use TypeScript because it really does help with like the simple things that you might not be able to catch. And it makes it easier where there's a lot of people working on one code base so everybody make less mistakes. And a lot of the projects, like if you look at Strappy, we were JavaScript. Now we support both JavaScript and TypeScript. And then there's projects like Angular. Not saying like you should learn Angular or not. It's up to you. If, you know, popular in your area, but it's only done with TypeScript. And then I tried like Ionic, which is a way to use React to build like mobile web apps. That's also uses TypeScript now. And then Remix, when you start the project, it does give you an option to use JavaScript or TypeScript, but like majority of people, like I'm probably the only one that did it with JavaScript, but everybody does it with TypeScript. And so definitely at this point, once you complete JavaScript, go through TypeScript.
So the next one we have I'm still as a beginner for programming and sometimes I get stuck. Any advice basically is and more or less the question is this like I sometimes like while I'm doing the project sometimes I feel I cannot do it by myself. Is that normal? Yes, that's perfectly normal. It's again that's one of those things that never goes away. I mean, like again, once like if you're in your comfort zone, if it's something you have done, even then I for example like if I know that I already have written this code so I don't need to learn from the scratch, I can just go back to my project, just find it where it is and just basically utilize it. But
Yep.
the first time when I was making, I know that I struggled and that's why it took longer. And that's the same time, like every time you want something new, you want some kind of new
You're gonna go through
feature,
that feeling.
you'll basically let me like give you a simple example. When I was like once you understand the basic of let's say setting up the email authorization, but when like let's say to validate your email, right, this totally new thing you need to understand, like what's happening, where you guide on a front end, where you like what's happening on a back end. Need to find a provider that actually can give you like some kind of free tier or whatever. So all of those things and the first time you go through it, you're like, wow, this is a lot. And so this is perfectly normal and it's never going to go away. You're just getting more comfortable because you have more stuff already under your belt. That's about it.
Yeah, and that's for everybody. I still feel that way. I saw a comment like from Barislav. He said, like a thing about TypeScript, you could introduce it by piece in your code. So you don't have to try to build your whole application, but that's actually a good point. So you could like slowly, ease your way into it. Like this is funny. I'll do like TypeScript, and then I'm like, I don't understand TypeScript. I don't get how to fix it. So I'll just rename my file to .js, and then it's like everything works out. I'm like, yes, I fixed it. But I'm just saying you could do it piece by piece. That's a great point Marslav made. Um, but yeah, nice.
And then last one is somewhat like general. What courses do you recommend to land a web developer job? So I would say for the front end developer, that's HTML, JavaScript, React. Now I know that you, in theory, can bypass the HTML and JavaScript part. Again, no, it's not gonna be easy, but you can bypass.
No.
I'm not saying that you need to like learn 1 year HTML, 1 year
Oh yeah,
JavaScript.
yeah, yeah. Don't.
But it's also like it's all to say, I don't know like how much time you should spend on HTML and JavaScript before, because both of them are such a big building blocks of React that I cannot I don't know how much you should spend, but I can guarantee you that that's going to be something that you're going to be looking back on, because like the actual React API is not that, there's not that much to it. I think, like I keep saying, that the biggest thing that I see and questions I get in a course is about CSS, how to set up CSS. So if you're comfortable setting up the CSS, if you're comfortable with, I mean, some kind of general idea of the functions, and I would say mostly array methods and all that,
Yep.
then you're already kind of in good direction. And sorry,
So like,
last thing. And then for the full stack, I would just add Node and just kind of combine everything with Mern. Yeah.
yeah. So coming from someone who has over 500 courses on Udemy, like obviously pick an instructor that you like. For me, one of the reasons I'm sitting here talking to John is because I went through his courses and that's how I started a conversation with him. But what I found out, like, because I took so many different courses, that there's a lot of courses, a lot of good courses, but they all cover the same concepts. So if you take one HTML course, let's say from John or somebody else, like it'll still be like the same stuff. So you don't need a lot of courses. So what I tell people, and this is kind of something I put to the test and try it out, is like take one HTML and CSS course, go just through the course, do everything the instructor shows. After you complete the course, you will have the projects from the course. The next thing you do is build something for yourself based on what you learned from that course. And then you move on to a JavaScript course. You do the same process. Then you'll do like a React course, do the same process. And then, like John mentioned, for the backend Node. So that's like 4 courses. But if you follow that process where you actually complete the course and then you build your own version of what they build in the course based off like memory or trying it yourself, you're going to have a good foundation of understanding the languages. And then it just comes to, and by the way, you'll also have a bunch of projects to put in your portfolio, not only the ones that you created from the courses, but also the ones that you created yourself. And at that point, you could start trying to get an interview and get hired. I'm really strong believer that if you have good resources, you don't need many of them. You just need to, like, it's like when you're in school doing math, you only take one math class before you move to the next level. You don't take like 10 math level 1 classes for like 10 years. And so same thing, just set yourself to a good schedule, go through the 4 courses, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, and Node. If you put in the work to build projects based on what you learn, you're going to have the skills necessary to get a job. The biggest issue is due to like us having short attention span and believing that, oh no, I need more resources. The more resources, the better. It's too much noise. It's too much like to drag us into too many different directions. So basically, do what John did, or things, HTML, script, and Node, and you want to and build stuff. You're going to be good. Going to be good to go.
Yeah, that's like also something that you can definitely do is to recreate project. Let's say it's the same project in every time you learn something new. Again, this doesn't like there's this hatred towards the CRUD applications and everything, but those are the building blocks. So if you can do it in JavaScript first, and then if you can do it with React, first of all, you'll right away see how much easier it is and whatever, and then today, Paul had a very good example in his live stream where the engine boy, who's actually once in a while in our channel as well, he literally, he just like created the piece by piece. It took him a really long time, as far as I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but he was
Yeah,
like
it took
around
like
3 months.
yeah,
Yeah.
3 to 4 months. Yeah.
And he's just amazing. Like, and people always ask, like, oh, well, should I do this? And should I, like, and this is the exact project. You sit down, you take your time, you build feature by feature, and you will get there. So, that's kind of what I always suggest.
Yep.
Okay, we have two or three questions here. So please, again, CSS native or framework. So I'm still in CSS native, but I am nothing against frameworks. The reason why I kind of stuck with the CSS native is because it's easier for me if I record a React course if I have prepared the CSS already. I recorded the first time with the Bootstrap, and understandably, people were complaining that it's basically, you need to write so many classes, you need to do this
Right.
and that, and it kind of becomes more of a Bootstrap course than anything. So, since that's the case, I'm going CSS native, but at the same time, when it comes to bigger like teams and everything, the idea that you're going to be writing vanilla CSS, most likely not, you will be put into some kind of,
Yeah.
uh, I don't want to say box, but I mean,
But you need to know CSS to understand
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
what you're
yeah,
doing. You might
that's
not
true.
gonna be writing it, but you have to understand it.
Yeah,
But
so I enjoy. I think that native CSS definitely can do it. But again, for me, I enjoy styled components because it allows me to kind of get around the fact that I need to like come up with those unique class names and all that. So I still utilize that. But if you have the moment you have multiple people working on a project, there has to be a system. It's
yeah,
not anymore the same as like just me sitting down and writing the application. So hopefully that kind of answers that. So what
yeah.
else we have under the thingies? Uh, is it easy to learn TypeScript knowing JS? I'm still in JS stage. Yeah, I haven't done too much work with TypeScript, so I kind of cannot really answer that. I would need to rely on Alex or Paul here.
Yeah, I'm
I
not a TypeScript expert, but I started like learning it. And yeah, once you know JavaScript, it's just a feature you type stuff. Uh, it's not going to hard slow Java.
Yeah, you're freezing up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was just saying that once you know JavaScript, learning TypeScript is going to be fairly straightforward.
Mm.
It's basically just additional layer on top of JavaScript that already exists.
Yeah, I mean you're essentially like kind of the main idea is that you are you're avoid like in a process you're avoiding I don't want to call it stupid bugs, I guess, because it's a feature of JavaScript. But yeah, you're kind of, I mean, and for people who, let's say, who are coming from Java, they that's like very understandable for them. That you have to set up the type before you can create anything. It's just with JavaScript that's natively not the case. Uh, okay, what else we have? So we have, hello guys, I just wanted to ask, how can I pass the fear of styling CSS in general? JavaScript or React doesn't frighten me that much, but CSS, yeah, that's like I keep. I mean, again, it's just like a broken
Use a
record, but
framework.
that
Use a
that
framework.
that that's what I keep
Use
repeating. That
Tailwind.
you
Use
know,
Tailwind.
for if you want to create the application, you will have to know something. Again,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
I'm not here like sitting, oh, you need to, spend 3 years learning CSS. No, but you need to have a plan. So if it's not going to be a vanilla CSS, then yeah, I would say as far as the frameworks, Tailwind is a way to go because it gets really, um, I mean, the community really supports it. You have a lot of people just swearing
yeah.
by that.
And that, it just
So
allows you to get a lot done faster. So you could worry more about the actual logic of the code that you're writing in terms of JavaScript or React, whatever you're doing. Because one of the things for me, like I want to build a application that does like cool things. So I don't want to spend a lot of time writing CSS, because that's not what the main point of my application. My point of my application is the functionality that is going to be within it. And so to me, Tailwind really makes it easier. And I used to like not like Tailwind, and something happened, and now I'm like, I love Tailwind. It's awesome. You know, it started from the time you recommended their course that they had, and like the reasons behind
yes,
what they did, and then I was, these people are pretty smart, and I'm like, also spent so much money on that. That's not a cheap course, by the way.
yeah.
But
And by
I was
the way, I lost it. I changed computers and I lost it. I had a PDF, and then next thing I know,
Yeah,
maybe it's saved somewhere, but I think I
yeah.
deleted.
I'll see. I'll see what I could do. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm just kidding. I'm
yeah,
just
it's north of $100. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's
And then
definitely, but it's definitely worth it.
so yeah, so like because I paid that money, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna use Tailwind from this point on. That's it. I paid for life, my life payment for
And
it.
also, if you have money, they do have, what's the name of the where they create components for you?
Oh, yeah, it's like
Tailwind
just
UI.
Google, yeah, Tailwind something like yeah, I'll Google it.
So
I
if you
also
can,
bought that. It
yeah,
was a lot more money than the
that was
course.
a lot more. But if you, for example, if you can, okay, scrape, that amount of money, it definitely, they have pre-made already really nice templates. So you just pretty much grab the code and you add whatever functionality you need. I mean, most likely React. Let's be honest. I mean, you can.
They have both for HTML, and so I have, yeah, and it looks beautiful. I didn't finish this project, but if you want to see how some of the UI elements look like, if you go to devhunt.io, the project is not finished; it's broken,
Okay,
but
let me go.
it's you get
Um,
the initial general like styling on the front page. Like it's broken; it doesn't do much except get some of the basic data. But yeah, dev hunt like devhunt.io. Um, that's how their UI, and it's super easy. It literally took me 2 minutes to throw that up because it's literally
can
copy
you
and
say the
pasting.
URL one more time?
I'll send it in chat.
Hmm.
It's um, oh, I guess chat. I guess I could send it in guest chat. I didn't know there was a feature. Oh. I'll put in comments too. I'm not able to put in comments. Yeah, never mind. I said it in guest chat. I could probably comment on YouTube. Hold on. Also, yeah, I'm gonna put it
Hmm.
in comments
Let
on
me
YouTube.
quickly
I put
find.
it also in the YouTube chat from Coding After 30. Dev Hunt, like hunting, Dev Hunt. I don't know why I named it that.
Let me
Like
just.
that project is not done at all, but you get a basic idea of like kind of how the components look like and what have you. But I'm gonna one day come back and finish it. Uh, but you know what I'm waiting for to finish this? Next.js course from John, so I could learn more about it, so I could
You're
know what to do.
you. I don't think you'll learn more,
I think
but
so. I think so.
but
But it's
no,
that
Next.js is the thing. Like
the
I
Next.js hundred
definitely,
percent. Yeah.
it's I like how I heard somebody saying that it has been painful to watch the death of Gatsby. Now I'm
Oh my
not
god.
big on like throwing like names like this around, like where like, but I don't see, like, I clearly see like how
I
community has
want to see
shifted.
Gatsby be okay. I want it to be okay. I want it
But
to be.
like, listen, so what's your opinion still on the fact that, because when I read the comments about why people dislike Gatsby, it's one of the main reasons was they were like, I don't like to do GraphQL for such static websites. Like, how do you still feel? Like, I know you love GraphQL. I haven't like worked
Oh,
that
here's the
much.
funny thing. Here's the funny thing. Like I love GraphQL when I get to decide how I use it. I did not like it in Gatsby. I wish there was like a simpler way of like it's not like complicated, but I wish you didn't have to have that as a requirement as an option. Um, but I like the fact, that you could just statically generate a site quickly with Gatsby. That's pretty convenient. Like if you don't need anything else, just something that's statically generated, you could be getting the data from an API and built every time you update something. That's like to me, like I really like that. But I didn't like their using GraphQL within Gatsby. But I have a couple of projects even now. Like I have one Strappy project that REST, and then another project that's GraphQL because I still like GraphQL. But in Gatsby, I was like, I don't know. It's
But yesterday, by the way, Paul did like a really nice talk on the in one of the meetups. He was basically talking about Gatsby. Fui, what Gatsby? Strappy, what Gatsby? Strappy. He was talking about Strappy, and then the person asked, what about GraphQL? And they had a very interesting conversation. So what you want to say right now that, let's say, some of the things that GraphQL was solving now, it's
Almost irrelevant.
they're
Yeah.
migrating towards doing that with the REST API. Yeah.
Yeah. So to like summarize, the reason why a lot of people use GraphQL is because it allows you to prevent underfetching or overfetching, where basically you only get the data that you want. And before with REST, there was no real way of doing it. So you'll either get this big object in your response that had everything, and that's something that like actually Strapi v3 had. So whenever you ask for some data, it would have everything, right? Because there's no way to specify. And I know Strapi is not the only company that implemented, but now, like in Strapi, for instance, we have this populate flag where you are able to dictate what additional related things you want to return. So it really prevents you from having like to deal with this concept of overfetching, because you only get the data that you want. And now, like since REST has that ability, you don't really need GraphQL for that. And another thing that I really hear a lot of people say where REST is better, or at least easier way, is when you start to add caching to your site. Through REST, it's a lot easier and better. I've never done it with QL, uh, so I don't know what that difficulty is. But there's a lot of people that basically just like, you know what, I'll just stick with REST now. Where before, like GraphQL had some advantages, where now it's not as much of the case. So I think REST is kind of back in like being like cool again.
No, the reason why I'm laughing is because Alex is saying, John, don't throw Paul's freelancing business out there regarding Gatsby. Basically, that that you're doing Gatsby some Gatsby work on the side. So you're promoting Gatsby on the side, but you're technically working for
No, the
Strappy. Yeah.
here's the funny thing. I'm not promoting anything outside of like, go get some John Smilga courses. They're awesome. But um, there you go. No. So here's the funny story. I practicing like because we switched from Strappy version 3 to Strappy 4, and I started to practice like just finding test projects from other creators who use Strappy 3 and then converted to Strappy 4. And I'm like, hey, John, like I should like go through your like Gatsby course and make the changes and change the Strappy version 3 through 4 and make it work with Gatsby. But then like everything you said, how Gatsby is like on a downturn and all this other stuff, I'm like, does it make sense? Does it make sense to revisit? And so I am going Next.js. Like for this year, my focus is Next.js and Remix. Um, you know, but to be honest, I did build one project with Gatsby, but because it was just an informational site, I didn't use the GraphQL way of getting data. I just hard coded it within the app, and it was fine. The boss didn't complain because the content will never change. And if it does change, it's so easy for one of us, the developers, to be able to go and change it. So I thought that was kind of hilarious, but it was fast. It loaded fast. Everything worked fast.
No, but
So
this is another example of like the reality is Next.js allows you to get to the
yep.
point of whatever you do with Gatsby much quicker. And this is something that we brought up.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
This is something that kind of I heard some first time kind of on a podcast where somebody was saying like, look, it's not about unique. In that context they were talking about the products or whatever, but it's not about being unique. When the Google was invented, there was already search engines, but it's about like basically doing it something better. So static site generation wasn't like it's not like Next.js invented it, but
Yeah.
they kind of made their like application so good that it's so easy. You're literally like, if you want to fetch data in Next.js, it's a one function. If you want to do that in Gatsby, you need to install a few plugins. Then you need to understand how the GraphQL works. Again, a lot of awesome things. I'm not looking back and saying like, oh, I wasted all this time on Gatsby. No, that's not what I'm saying. But
No, that's not
for
true at
any
all.
for a person who just wants to pick up a framework and start using the SEO features and everything, and to have optimized images, you probably don't need to learn about how GraphQL works. You rather just
Right.
get static props
Yeah.
and I'm good to go.
That's it.
So it's definitely Next.js is a killer. And one more thing that like I was really amazed that now there used to be a pain as far as the deployment, and probably you already all of you know
Next,
that. Yeah, because with Netlify, it wasn't like working well. Let's say with Netlify, and now
yeah, I use
it's
Vercel to be
smooth.
honest,
Yeah.
but
So
I'm sure Netlify supports it too well.
oh yeah, now
But
it's
I did
seamless.
Vercel.
Now it's
Vercel
literally like any other
nice.
project. It used to be like that. It was a little bit of pain.
Y-
Um,
Yeah, so I'm rebuilding. I didn't finish it yet, but I'm working on codingafter30.com, like where I'm gonna have just my notes and my blog. It's not done at all, but I did it with Next using statically generated, which is awesome because the site only changes when I update the content, and I like that because I don't hit the server all the time. Only when I add like a new post or something, which is kind of cool. Yeah, Next.js is definitely the way to go. So
yeah. Again, we'll see what happens with Remix. I know that they keep all the time repeating because I mean it's not like there's a fight or whatever. As far as I read the comments and whatever, the creators of Remix are friends with Next.js, and
yeah,
they
yeah,
they pretty much keep kind of pushing each other forward, and
progress for
as
both. Yeah,
as a result, the whole thing is getting better, because I know that now Next.js is working on nested routes, which wasn't a feature before, like
yeah,
basically layouts in a nested route.
yep,
So now,
yep.
because of Remix, they start doing that.
Remix
So
does it
it's kind
really
of,
nice. I
yeah,
agree.
lifts the
Each other.
entire.
Yep.
Well, what's the
You know, it'll be
saying
funny.
that the tide lifts the boats or
Lift all
whatever?
boats. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so it'll be hilarious that they'll both keep moving, copying each other's features. And then eventually you won't be able to distinguish Remix
it's
from
just gonna be
Next.js.
one.
It'll just be like, and then they'll meet together and it'll be like the one thing. It'll be funny.
But is Next.js
Remix doesn't do
is Remix
static
still in
sites.
alpha or beta, or they
I think
already
it's finally
stable
on. I think,
version?
to be honest, I don't know. I know they're not an alpha anymore. It might be a stable release. And I've seen people like build applications with it in the wild. And this is one of the reasons I was excited about it because I literally saw someone uh, like Remix is a full stack React framework, but you don't have to do that back end. Same with Next.js. You don't like. So I saw somebody really quickly how easily they're able to do nested routing and all this other stuff. Like they used the basic instance of Strappy. They didn't even do anything to it. They just put their content in there, and then they called Strappy from their Remix app, and they created like this business website that literally took them like 3 days to make. And I was just so impressed with how quickly they were able to kind of make the two work that I was like, man, that's kind of nice. And I think that's the thing to consider when choosing the framework is like, how quickly does it allow you to build a thing that you try to build for a client? And if it makes it easier for you, then that's the right framework. So that got me like excited about Remix because I'm like, like if like because I'm all about spending the least amount of time like building stuff. I just want to get stuff out there. And so that's why I was excited for Remix, because if it makes my development job faster, like why not use it? So for me, Next.js is like 70% of my learning, and then Remix is like 30%.
A little bit ago, a little while ago, I mentioned the YouTube channel, so I'll post the link over here. So the channel is Artsy Coder 533, and basically the idea is this: it's very similar to Paul's in the sense that it's just a real person. Like her name is Natasha, and she shares how she works on a project. Again, that was very similar to I like how Alex did it. Like he carved his own path and then just stuck with it. And she has like a bunch of cool videos where she talks about what projects she's making, and essentially she went from working in different field into went into the development. So if you want to check out some real content, just like the same how I always like Paul's content, then
Yeah,
be
she's
sure
really
to check
good.
out. And I'll try to invite her here, since
Yeah, you
again
should
this
definitely
is
do it.
gonna be
I know you
good
a
chat.
while ago. Yeah, you shared on Twitter her
Yeah.
video, and I watched it, and it was really, really
It
good.
was
She's
like
so
literally
very
like
well
exactly
spoken.
the,
And
the,
so
the points that we
yeah,
always talk about, and
yeah,
so it's always nice
and
that other people also see that
yeah,
way.
and I like to see more channel like this because it's much nicer to have someone that's in the trenches going through the process, because you're gonna hear about the real experience and the real pain of like or successes. So you get not something skewed from someone who's like a senior developer, doesn't even remember what it was like, trying to get your first job. And I think for anybody starting out, it's okay to follow like big popular channels, but definitely find some smaller channels where people are literally going through the process like you, just learning, to kind of stay motivated and see the realistic expectations that you see.
Hmm. Okay, let's knock out some questions. So we have this one. What is a great front-end project that would definitely assist in landing a job as junior developer? I don't know whether that would be a junior developer, but definitely go check out Paul's today's video.
That was the
Like
funny thing. Like I
engine
told him,
engine boy did.
based on the
Like
code you wrote, you're not a junior developer. I
yeah,
just wanted
yeah,
to say that because I don't want people to get the wrong expectation. But like, and I've said this many times to you. I said you need to have some sort of authentication, and then you need to have full CRUD functionality, regardless if you use an API or you create your own API. I think if you do that, it's like the minimum. And if you're to like, actually, this is something that I started to do on my channel. Like, so anybody wants to share your project, just like go, like, let me know coding after 30. But what I realized, people that code their project, like, I want to start inviting them to show off what they built, so they could literally go through the process of describing what they did in code, because I think it's part of the process. So what I realized after talking to a bunch of people is that if someone built something and they could comfortably like talk about their project, I know they're going to do very well in the interview. Because like there's there's this guy Luke that came a while ago, and he did something with ASP.NET and C#. And I was like, literally, it's like, how you spin the globe and you put a finger randomly where it lands. That's what I was doing with his project. And I was just like impressed how he was able to like tell me like, oh, this is what I did here. To be honest, like there's probably a better way of doing it, but I haven't done it yet. And so he knew like the good, the bad about the code. And the way he was able to talk about it, I was like, oh, he's going to do well in the interview. And sure enough, he was able to land a job. And I think building projects and practicing talking about your code is actually a pretty cool thing to get comfortable with.
yeah, and that one is like this is what we like all the time. You get like, oh, okay, so e-commerce, is not the thing anymore. This definitely, if you can build such a bug tracking app, and again, it's not like it's a unique project, but you need to make it your own. Basically, you need to
Yeah.
make it. Like if you make it
Yeah,
instead
yeah,
of
yeah,
just
yeah. That's
copying
the key
pasting
term.
somebody else's
Gotta
code.
make it.
Yeah, you need to make it. And again, it's not going to be the case of, and if you'll make that, it's going to be unique. And if it's going to be unique, they will see that. And yes, you don't have to come up with 10,000 projects. I think this is what people kind of like, we have talked about, that the idea is that there's somehow there's this unicorn project who's going to like get you like hired because you are so unique. No, it's about you making that project. That's, I think, the most important thing.
Yeah, and being able to talk about it comfortably.
Yeah. I just finished John's course, HTML and CSS. But what about the project you mentioned at the end of the course? I'm not sure. Could you please elaborate on what projects are you talking about? Then we have interesting one. Should the senior dev know how to work with all JS frameworks like Angular and Vue? No. The idea is that if they will need to, they will learn very quickly, but it would be impossible for them to all the time keep up with all the evolving framework. I don't like
It'd be
your
impossible.
head
Yeah.
wouldn't fit in a camera, your head, if that would be the case. So no.
Yeah. I just want to do a shout out KitKat here on the channel. I have recommended your courses to her, and she built an amazing project based on what she learned like from you. And she was able to get hired, and she made a transition late in her career. And it was hard. She did the work, but it was kind of cool to like, I literally watched her like go through the process and get hired. And all like work, obviously she did herself. But I just wanted to say that that's impressive. Like to see people that actually know to like learn the thing from Udemy and then apply like interviewing, going through the process, and then get a job and get hired. So, which is like pretty awesome.
Is
I think she's
is that the girl Katya?
yeah.
I thought
that's
that
right.
you made her up.
Son of a.
I thought that you just...
Did you really think that?
No,
you're just
no,
messing
I'm
with me. You're messing with me.
I needed. Listen,
you got me good.
I
No,
decided
she's a real person. No, to be honest, I'm typing all her comments. Like, check this out. say
No,
I love
I
peace.
decided that like when you have a time to kind of step away from something, think about. I decided that I'll try to make this podcast a little bit lighter,
No,
uh,
it's good. It's
because it's
good.
gonna fit into the basically the theme of having a kind of Friday night podcast.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no, I'm real. I know,
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
I know,
Oh,
I know, I know,
Al,
I know.
I saw Alex do a comment saying that I need to make an album for music. I suck at music, so probably not going to happen, Alex. But I wanted, like, I got this thing for my birthday,
Nice, nice.
and it basically allows you to do whatever the heck you want, make whatever music you want. It's pretty cool. So 80s music all the way. That's the plan.
How much time can you spend a week? Like I know your bosses might be listening, but
No, no, no,
like
no, 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 no. It's fine. Like so. Well, no. Here's the interesting thing. The company that I work for, if you don't have habits like that you do outside of work, that's actually sign of that you're not able to be healthy with your life choices. And if they see that you're like allowing yourself to have habits, not allowing yourself to enjoy the weekend, that's gonna go against you. So when I was actually going to the interview, and this is kind of funny because I remember I used you as reference, and you're like, "Oh, Paul works hard all the time," and blah 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 blah. So they like during the interview they said that to me. So like, "Oh, like what is your biggest weakness?" Like, and I started to kind of say like, "I work all the time," and then I was like, "No, no, no." Like, they want to make sure that you're balanced. That's the most important part. So, luckily, with the company that I work for, they promote this whole like idea of life and work balance. And so if
mm,
someone's not able to balance because they're constantly working all the time, that's sign of like not being healthy lifestyle. So I do have times on the weekends to mess around, and I'll do it for like 10 minutes because I don't care. Like I don't have like expectations that I'm going to be a musician. I just want to make some noise, make things happen, make the buttons glow, and then make it sound like something. Then maybe post it on Twitter, and that's it. So, uh, but definitely I spend
and
more time
and which
with.
days then you have live streams? You have Friday nights and you have Saturday morning.
Yeah, which just seems like a crazy schedule, but I recently realized that like I don't want to go out on Friday nights. So I just want to for like code, and so I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna live code what I think it's interesting for me. And so now it's like going through Remix, and then Saturday mornings I decided to do like the talk about the getting hired, like, and other tips that will help people to make the transition, not really code heavy, or maybe like share other people's projects. And the reason why I did the Friday stream on Saturdays because I live in a small apartment, and so like I don't want to do it in times where it's inconvenient for people. So I'm like, you know what, Friday night everybody's partying anyway, so I'll do one from 8 to whatever, and then early in the morning, and so that's cool.
Okay, we have Jason. Hey guys, great to see you together again. Hope you both are doing well and that there are more power hours coming soon. Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah,
yes, 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 yes.
100%.
We like I said, we'll do for a few weeks, then we'll stop a little bit. Just that's why I wanted kind of to
Gotta
pick it
move.
up right now, so it doesn't go into whatever months. But then yeah, the moment I'm settled, then we'll do this for sure because I'm really enjoying this. So we have Simon here. What are your thoughts on companies who use Angular? Got an offer this week, but we'll have to switch from React and learn Angular. Definitely outside the comfort zone. I would, for me, I like, I, I like React. It doesn't mean that I'm not against Angular per se. But I haven't like worked with Angular since the Angular 1. So my thoughts are like useless kind of on that topic. But I definitely if the company is the right choice and the right fit and everything, I would have no problem switching over to Angular and whatever. I don't think that's, switching from one to another, I don't think is a big deal at
Yeah, and
all.
if you want to brush up, do like a tutorial.
Yeah.
Just get one on Udemy. The one thing I would say about Angular, like all the like new Angular, they all also use TypeScript, so that's also something that you want to be aware of and brush up on. But same thing, I love React, but I'm not against Angular. I think it's a good tech. There's plenty of jobs. I actually had a job interview a while back for Angular, but I decided not to do it because I was like, I need to stay in the React world, and just.
Actually, I have a question for you, Simon. Then when they were interviewing, how much they were like expecting you to know as far as
That's a
Angular?
good
That's
question.
very curious. Are they like, because I don't think that they. Oh. Okay, I think we'll have to finish our lovely chat because my camera died, so that's why you cannot see me. We have been talking for 1 hour 25, so that's pretty
It's
much.
pushing it, yeah.
Yeah, so it was awesome to see everybody.
Same here. A
And
lot of
yeah, and then we'll chat next week at the same time on Saturday at 2 o'clock.
perfect. Yeah, works good for me.
And
Nice.
then of course I'll keep you up to date when I'm moving and everything. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Thank
John.
you.
And
Awesome. It was
we'll catch
great
up
to
later.
see everybody.
All right. Take care. Bye.